This is a story that dates back to 2019. I would have been 18 at the time, and it involves two of my ex-friends, Ripley and Mariano. Now those two, especially Ripley, were pretty crazy, but those are stories for another day. So basically, it was Halloween 2019, and my friends Ripley and Mariano had the excellent idea of going trick-or-treating. We were all 18, by the way, but I'm not going to blame it all on them. I mean, I agreed to it, so... I forgot to mention that my friends wanted to get drunk while we were trick-or-treating. I mean, it's already bad enough we're all 18, right? Legally adults going trick-or-treating. And on top of that, we were all going to get drunk doing it. I had a gorilla costume from a couple Halloweens back. My parents had gotten it for me, but at the point of this story, it didn't really fit me properly, so I couldn't even zip it up all the way in the back, and I couldn't put on the gloves. So they were just kind of dangling on the side of the wrists. And I went to work in this costume. At the time, I was working at a community center. Basically, it was an after-school program for kids. They'd come there, and the kids, they all loved my costume. And this is actually a very important detail for later on in the story. The fact that the kids saw me in the costume. I don't remember exactly when they wanted to go trick-or-treating, but it was sometime right after work. And I ended up not eating anything before we went on our little drunk trick-or-treating excursion, which was a very bad idea. And it's just another detail in this shitstorm of a story. But yeah, I just didn't have time. I didn't think to get anything before. And I mean, you know, that's one of the golden rules of drinking, especially binge drinking, right? Never do it on an empty stomach. But I did. I also had my backpack on me, and it had some apple juice because I wanted to use that as a chaser because my friends brought along some vodka. So, and I also had my ID, my wallet and my ID in my backpack, which thank God for that. That's another important detail for later on. But yeah, so there I am in a gorilla suit with a black backpack on that has apple juice, going trick-or-treating at 18 years old with my other 18-year-old friends. Pretty shady. So the night begins. I meet up with my friends, or rather, I think they come to me. They meet me at my job, and then we decide to get started. But first, I actually fucked up earlier. I didn't have the apple juice with me from the beginning. First, we went to Kroger, and that's where I got the apple juice, and I kept it on me. And then we go behind the Kroger. There was a little back alley. These days, 5 years later, it's fenced off. But back then, it was like where they had like the back exits where employees go out to like throw the trash and stuff. And, you know, it was completely wide open. So we get the apple juice, we go back there, and we start drinking. That was actually my first time ever having vodka. And I'm pretty sure I haven't had vodka since. Honestly, these days I mostly gravitate towards beer if I'm drinking anyways. I really haven't had a taste of hard liquor in quite a while. And if I ever did go back, I definitely wouldn't do vodka again because, you know, it was pretty, I remember very vividly the sting in my throat. I mean, it felt horrible. It was not pleasant at all. The apple juice, of course, helped, right? It helped flush out all that disgusting flavor, that painful feeling. But yeah, it was not very good. And I'm on an empty stomach, so I'm getting wasted in a back alley in a gorilla costume. And just like that, we finished drinking. We didn't drink the whole bottle. That would have been insane, right? But, you know, we drink a bunch and we hit the town. We wreak havoc on all these poor families that are trick-or-treating, you know, hosting for all these young kids. And then us three grown-ass men, drunk out of our minds, come stumbling up to them, begging them for candy. At first, you know, I'm not gonna lie, obviously I would never do that anymore. I mean, 23 now, I would probably get arrested, but you know, at the time I was 18, we were all reckless, we were dumb as fuck. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot of fun. it was a lot of fun, you know. I mean, I still like being drunk now, of course. And yeah, I mean, I'm in my gorilla costume. We're interacting with all these people. We were drunk out of our minds. I mean, I remember at one point there was this family. They had this fucking this tombstone, but it was massive and it was like plastic and it had a TV in it and it was playing like old school like fucking cartoons of like a skeleton dancing or something, like the spooky scary skeleton, like that shit. And I was so drunk and I couldn't believe my eye. I mean, it was insane, right? Like just seeing that sober would have been crazy. And I was drunk. I couldn't believe I was seeing it. I think I might have thought I was like tripping out or something. I don't know. But yeah, it was fun at first. And then it wasn't. For a little bit, I felt so amazing. I felt on top of the world. And then it all comes crashing down because if you remember correctly, like I said earlier, so many times, right? I drank a bunch of vodka, right, on an empty stomach. Like it wasn't even that I had like not eaten right before. I think I hadn't eaten since like breakfast. Like I was starving, you know? I could have at least like bought a bag of chips or something at the Kroger. I really don't know why I didn't at least like try to have a little snack or something. But no, completely empty stomach. I was starving. I was super hungry. Now I'm introducing alcohol into my body and it's just got free reign over my insides. And eventually I start getting really dizzy. I start getting like incomprehensibly drunk. And yeah, shit starts to completely fall apart at that point. At this point, my memory starts to get a little hazy, but from what I remember, for whatever reason, we decided to go back to Kroger. I don't remember why. So I stumble back to Kroger, gorilla costume, backpack, my two friends, yada, yada, yada. And then we come stumbling back to, I really don't remember why we went here, but we actually end up going, like passing by the front of where I was working at the time. Not to like vandalize it or anything. I think it's because there was like a field right outside the building and there were some benches and I guess we just wanted to chill there for a little bit. So we go there and we're sitting on the bench and I remember very clearly, I'm super dizzy. My friends are like talking and I'm sitting there just dry heaving, right? And then the unthinkable happens. As we are strolling up there, right? Or maybe we were leaving, I don't remember. We were chilling there and then a group of the kids from where I was working at come up to us. We fucking run into some of the kids that I used to work with. Oh no, I'm super drunk. I'm not even kind of drunk. I'm blasted, right? In this gorilla costume. And now two of these young, impressionable kids that look up to me are seeing me like this. So I go into full panic mode. I end up not saying anything to them. I think I just say hi real fast. And then my friends start talking to them for whatever reason. Like, they came up to say hi to us. So, and I was just so like ashamed. I was so mortified by the situation. I don't even say anything. And I turn around and I go to the field to get away from the kids. And there's actually this big ass like banister. It was like this big ass like metal rectangle. And it turns out that like they had a bunch of, it's still out there today in this field, right? And it has a bunch of like gardening tools and stuff, like shovels and stuff. So I go to the field. I'm probably waddling, right? Like almost stumbling, tripping on my ass from how drunk I am and how out of balance I am. And I go to the field, I go behind the banister and I collapse. Next thing I know, I'm waking up to the sound of my phone ringing. I have no idea how long I would have been out there asleep. Could have been 5 minutes, could have been 30, could have been an hour. I really have no idea. I think it was probably around like 20, 25 minutes. Anyways, I answer the phone and it's my friends. And all I hear is like some mumbling and like a bunch of noise. Basically, it was party ambience. So they were at a party. I actually forgot to state this earlier, but one of their plans was to try to get invited to a party by the end of the night. I guess they found something and they totally left me behind in this banister, or behind the banister as I was passed out, right? It's stuff like that, which is why I'm not, it was something much worse than that ended off our friendship, but it was stuff like that was like the building blocks to like me realizing that, okay, these guys are kind of assholes, right? I mean, they totally left me out like in this field, passed out, drunk, all by myself while they went off to some party. So anyways, yeah, I answer the phone. They're just kind of mumbling. I don't really hear anything. I'm so drunk that like I also am unable. I start vomiting, right? I start vomiting. So I can't even speak to them. And on top of that, I can't understand what they're saying. Eventually they hang up as I'm vomiting. And then I get up and I start to panic a little bit because now I'm out there all by myself. I was actually really close to, where I lived, right? So it wasn't about like, oh my God, I'm like 30 minutes away, I have to walk back home. It was literally like a 2-minute walk away from my place. However, I had told my parents that I was going to be spending the night at one of their places, right? So to come back home now would be ultra suspicious. And on top of that, I'm drunk out of my mind. Like I had just literally gotten up from vomiting all over the grass after having taken a 20-minute like drunk nap in a field, right? Passed out in a fucking field for 20 minutes. I couldn't go home like that. But my friends were gone and I had like nowhere else to go. So I start to seriously panic. I'm like, oh my God, where am I gonna go? What am I gonna do? I actually decide, okay, I'll try to sneak home. It's my first idea. So I go home, a 2-minute walk, like I said. I try opening the door. I had my key on me. I unlocked the door and I try opening it, but then there was a second lock that they had put up. And so I was able to unlock the first lock with my key, but not the second lock. So just like that, I cannot go home. I mean, I could have knocked on the door, but then again, that would have been a huge scene. I probably would have been in a lot of trouble because it was like 2 a.m. They would have been like, what the fuck are you? Like, why are you? And then they would have seen that I was drunk and they would not have been happy. So that was no longer an option. If I wasn't already freaking out, at that point, I was like super scared. I had literally no idea where I was going to go. And it was getting to a point where I was slowly realizing, fuck, I think I'm literally just going to have to like sleep outside. But, where to go, right? Where to go without, raising suspicion and then having the cops called on me for, being drunk in a gorilla costume, loitering, sleeping in a parking lot or something, right? Let alone how uncomfortable that would have been, right? So I start wandering around and it's getting cold too and it's super windy. So at this point, like I'm getting really, really like the whole night turns so bad by this point. Like my friends are gone. I have nobody. I have nowhere. But then I have the bright idea. Oh, wait, I can go into my laundry room, the laundry room for our apartment complex. Because I had been in there before, right? The laundromat, the laundry room is always open. And because of the machines, I guess, because there's like 6 or 8 machines in there, it would actually get pretty warm in there. So I had this idea and I was like, oh, awesome, I'll go there. And yeah, it turned out to be a pretty decent idea because I walk in and it wasn't like super warm, but at the very least I was away from the wind and it was definitely much warmer than what it was outside. It gets even better though, because at first there's like a little section that's poking out of the wall where it's like you put stuff on it, I guess. And I sit down and then I lay down there and I start trying to sleep. But I start getting a little cold again, once like the light warmth, of like the difference between being outside and inside. Because again, it was warmer in there, but not by much. So once my body got used to it, I was getting kind of chilly again. And on top of that, right, I was worried about like, if someone walks in here, like in the morning, it's going to look really bad, right? So I start looking around and then I see there's like a door and it's like the maintenance area where only the maintenance men go. I try it and it actually fucking opens. I walk in, I close the door. It's even warmer in there and nobody can see me. So I lay on the ground, on the cold, hard ground, in my gorilla costume, backpack right next to me, and I try my best to sleep for the night. At that point, I'm pretty sure it was like 4 a.m. or something. I sleep, and then I get up at 8. So I had like 4 hours of probably the shittiest, most mediocre sleep possible, right? The circumstances were so bizarre. And you know, I'm still dead tired, but I can't go back to sleep anymore by the time I wake up. So I decide to get up, but I'm not in the clear quite yet. Because at that point, I figured it was still too early to come back home without raising any suspicion, seeing as how, again, I said I was going to be staying the night. I actually don't quite remember why. I think that was it. Either way, I felt like I couldn't go home yet, so I kind of just wandered around for a little bit. Eventually, my stomach starts to hurt, and without getting too gross with it, essentially I needed to use the restroom, but it's still too early for me to go home. I'm still like, fuck, I can't go home yet, right? So I walk up to, because I'm still in the area, right? I do like the 1-minute walk to get to my workplace, to the community center. I walk up and I start planning, okay, I'm gonna go in, because my coworkers were there. That year, Halloween was like on a Thursday or something. And so now it was Friday, it was still a work day. So, you know, my coworkers were still there. So, but I go in, take a shit, I leave, everything's good. Nobody saw me, everything was okay, but it's still too early for me to go home, right? So I start waiting around, kind of planning like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get home? I'm formulating this whole story that I'm gonna tell my mom as to why, oh, you know, I'm home earlier because of this, this, and this, right? And there's like this small building that I think is like an electrical room or something that was right next to the community center. So I start basically loitering out there. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I was fucking loitering in a gorilla costume. Now, when it comes to the geographics of the story, right, I've already explained how where I lived was like literally a minute walk away from my workplace, right? But also what was like diagonally across the street from my old workplace is a church. And it turns out from where I was fucking standing, which was out of eyesight of my job, because I was like standing behind the building, the little electrical room, I was actually within perfect eyesight of the church. And it turns out I had no idea they run like a preschool and they were in session. So they all fucking see me loitering out here in a gorilla costume. Now, I didn't know it at the time. The way I found out was a fucking cop pulls up on me. So I'm standing there, you know, I'm trying to think up a story, and then I see a cop start kind of like rolling up, and I'm thinking, my heart fucking drops, right? I'm terrified. I'm like, oh my God, dude, no way. But then I'm thinking, no. This cop, whatever, he's just driving up like it's nothing. He's gonna drive away, or he's going to talk to someone else. And of course, the cop comes walking up to me. So at this point, I'm in full panic mode on the inside, but on the outside, I'm playing it cool. You know, officer comes up to me. Oh, hey, officer, I didn't see you there, right? Just, you know, trying to play it cool, trying to act natural. And, you know, he does this whole, oh, hey, buddy, what's up? How, you know, what are you doing out here, right? And then he very kindly explains to me that, yeah, well, you're loitering out here, and you know you're within eyesight of this school. And then he tells me that I actually made them go into lockdown, and then that school informs like the middle school and then like the elementary school that are nearby. They can't see me, but they're still close by. I guess like they informed them or something, and then they go on fucking lockdown too. So according to this officer, I've caused 3 fucking schools to lock down. Schools which, by the way, are full of kids that I regularly interact with, because after school, they come to the community center, which is where I worked at the time. For the record though, at the time of the conversation, I only knew of the one school that had locked down. I guess the other schools locking down is kind of a spoiler alert for later, but I'll get into it later. Anyways, all I can think to do is, honestly, I don't even remember. I probably just apologize. And then he's like, hey, do you have an ID on you? And thank God I actually did have a fucking ID on me, right? I pull it out of my backpack. I show him. I'm pretty sure he catches a glimpse of my apple juice that's in there. So, you know, I'm sure he probably got a pretty good idea that like, yeah, it's just some kid, he got drunk, you know, the apple juice was there as a chaser for, you know, whatever liquor they were drinking. So I show him my ID, and he's able to verify, you know, everything. And he sees that I live like right close by. And he actually fucking lets me go. He actually is like, oh, okay, I see you live right there. And he gives me back my ID and he's like, okay, man, like, you know, it's cool, like whatever, just get out of here. And I was like, sigh of relief. Thank you so much, officer. Yeah, honestly, I don't know if I didn't have my ID or, you know, my skin is already, I'm Venezuelan, but my skin is pretty dark, right? I don't know, maybe that, because it was a white officer. So maybe he was just feeling nice that day. Maybe that guy, maybe that one isn't like racist or whatever. I don't know. Either way, I lucked out because he could have arrested me. And I wasn't scared of getting charged with anything. I was scared of the phone call I was going to have to make to my parents, telling them, hey, I got arrested. I'm in jail. I need you guys to pick me up. That would have been a fucking nightmare. After that, the rest of the day isn't as interesting. I wander around a little bit more. I eventually come up with the story that I tell my mom. I come back home. My dad has no idea what's going on. He's like, oh, hey, how was it? I was like, oh yeah, it was so fun, right? Yeah. Motherfucker had no idea what I had just gone through. He thought I was just having like a innocent, pleasant little time trick-or-treating with my friends, but oh yeah. And I go to my room and I fucking crash on my bed. But the story is not done yet. There is one more small part to this, an epilogue, if you will. I don't quite remember whether it was the next day at work or later that same day at work, but anyways, I come into work and one of the kids comes up to me and he looks at me and he's like, hey, you caused our school to shut down. Instantly my heart drops and I'm like, wait, what? What are you talking about, right? And he's like, yeah, you caused our school to shut down. We were on lockdown and they said it was because there was a gorilla, there was a guy in a gorilla suit wandering around near the school. And in my head, I'm panicking. I'm like, oh my God, dude, no fucking way. I caused his school to close down too. So that's where I got because the officer only told me about the one school that shut down, which was the church, the preschool, right? But as far as I remember, this kid did not go to that preschool. He was in elementary school, right? So that's why I'm thinking, I guess the church preschool contacted the elementary school and they're like, hey, we're going on lockdown. There's a gorilla guy suit. There's a guy in a gorilla suit, you know, be careful. And then I guess they decided to go on lockdown as well. So I know of at least 2 schools that I locked down because I was fucking loitering. And this kid is coming up and innocently telling me about it. Of course, I completely deny everything. And thankfully, he drops it. And we never spoke of this ever again. And that's basically the end of the story. I got out of everything scot-free, no problems. My parents never found out. Thankfully, my coworkers, the higher ups at my job, never found out. These days, they actually work a lot closer with the schools. So if they worked as closely with the schools then as they do now, they probably would have heard pretty quickly. And I imagine they would have connected the dots and recognized, you know, this guy we employ here, he was in a gorilla suit today, right? And that would have been a whole world of trouble for me, but nothing ever came out of it. Thankfully, everything was cool and I moved on with my life. And yeah, that's basically the end of the story. You know, I could try to pin this on my friends more, but from what I remember when I was at the peak of my drunkenness, I was being a bit much, to put it lightly, around my friends. So I think at the time I kind of internalized it as though I kind of deserved them leaving me behind in that field. You know, it's really complicated. You know, these days I fully recognize these 2 guys as they're just fucking assholes, right? I haven't talked to them in years. And it wasn't this incident, which is what like caused our friendship to end. Like I said, it was something way worse. And maybe it's a story I can get into another time. But anyways, moral of the fucking story, eat something before you get drunk with friends.